This video is part 7 of a series. If you need more context, you should check out the related playlist. In this installment, I am going to take this method that is currently a module scope method and takes a primitive as its parameter, and I'm going to transform it so that I have a class called Duration, which encapsulates that primitive value and has this format method, this format function, as one of its methods. It's going to be the first step in encapsulating all of the duration logic from the timer controls. Let's get started. We get a little bit of help from Visual Studio Code. We can convert the parameters to a destructured object. So I'll do that first. I'm also going to change the name here from sec to seconds, because that makes more sense. None of this has changed the behavior of the system. And in fact, if we go and we look at the calls, we'll see that it's fixed all of the calls to this method so that they will compile and properly create an object that can then be destructured. The next thing I'm going to do is create a class. That does not change behavior at all. It's a new class, don't be using it. I can also create a constructor without changing behavior. I can also copy the declaration of this property and paste it as a parameter. This does not change how the system works. Yet, nothing is using this duration class. Now, this step is going to break compilation, but that's okay. It's not going to change behavior. I'm going to assign the parameter to a property that doesn't exist. However, all I have to do is then declare that property, and we're back to compiling, all without having changed how the system works. So now I have a class that is of the correct structure to be passed in anywhere this kind of interface or type definition is required, for instance, in the format method. Now it's time to put this all to use. So let's go to one of the places this format method is called. You see here, we have all these places where the Visual Studio Code has taken the parameter and turned it into an object. I'm going to pick one of them, and I'm going to extract it as a constant, and we'll call it duration spec. Good enough for now. And then I'm going to make a new constant called duration, which is equal to a new duration, and takes duration spec dot seconds. I can then take that duration and pass it in where I was passing in duration spec, because when we create a new duration, we take the seconds and we assign them to the property, so we end up with the exact same thing that we needed. All right, so I'm going to take that duration and I'm going to pass it here. Then I can encapsulate this as a method. So we'll extract a method in the module scope, call it from, which is going to make sense as a name in a moment. Now we have this from method. Let's cut it and go up to where duration was declared. Here, somewhere. There it is. And paste it here just so they're close to each other. Now, moving it didn't change behavior. I can also copy this and paste it without changing behavior because nothing's calling the new method, and because the new method is the same as the old, and make it a static method. So now I have a nice method called Duration.From that does the same thing as from, which really is just something that creates a new duration based on a type with the same properties. So I can go back to where this is called, and I can type Duration.From because they're the same methods. And then I no longer need this from method. Let's see. Let's inline this real quick. So now I can see this is the same thing as it's passed into duration, so I can just replace this with duration. And then I just need to go to all the other places where I call format. FMT really is what it's called right now. And I can simply call that same method. I know it's going to produce an object with the same signature as before. Duration.From, seconds next, that's going to give me a duration with the exact same seconds as the object that's passed in. Where else do we call this? Two more places. So I'll wrap these in parentheses, call duration.from. Wrap these in parentheses and call duration.from. And that has not changed the behavior. All we've done is transform the structure of this code. We have not modified behavior at all. Everywhere we call format, we call it with an instance of duration because we're calling duration.from. So now I can replace this kind of generic type specification with duration. By the way, I could rename this anytime. Let's rename it now because I'm tired of looking at FMT. Let's call it toFormattedString. So now I have all these calls to toFormattedString and they all take a duration. So let's see what else I can do to make this a little better. I can copy toFormattedString and I can paste it directly into duration. That's not going to change behavior at all. We're adding a new method, and the method does what the method I copied does. The nice thing about this is I can start to transform this method to point it not at a passed-in duration, but at this pointer. So let's look at how that might work. I might say something like const sec equals this dot seconds. That is going to give me the exact same algorithm, but pointed at the current object instead of at whatever was passed in. And then I can take these and get rid of these extra parentheses. Now I don't really need this destructuring, so I can just give it any old name and make it stop, because I don't need that. I can then go to anywhere where I call toFormattedString. I could copy the parameters, the arguments, paste them with a dot, right? So I can say duration dot. I know that does the same thing because I just transformed the old toFormattedString into a copy that is a member of duration and pointed at this. So it does the exact same thing. And then I don't need this parameter because it doesn't do anything. And I could just repeat that process until I end up with nice, clean, object-oriented code. Copy, paste, delete the old parameters, the old arguments. Let's see here. toFormattedString, then there's these guys. Copy, paste, get rid of the arguments. One more to go. Copy it, paste it, get rid of the argument, and now we don't have any calls to this global function anymore, or module scope function anymore. So I can just remove it. So I've taken that logic and I've encapsulated it completely in duration. I can even go a step further and move it to a new file. And you'll see I have a nice little duration class that is exported from that file, and timercontrol.tsx has gotten just a little bit shorter. Well, that's it for episode 7. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's inspiring you to transform your code rather than just hit it with a hammer and hope everything works out. Thanks.